When I returned from a business trip, the building manager stopped me at the entrance and handed me a small folded note. It was from my daughter-in-law. "Controlling old woman, stay out of our lives." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The Florida sunlight streamed through the glass doors, painting long shadows across the marble floor as I stood frozen, the note trembling in my hands. The handwriting was unmistakable, Yasmin's. My daughter-in-law for the past 3 years. The note was dated yesterday, while I was still in Chicago, celebrating the biggest deal of my career. "Mrs. Reynolds, I'm really sorry," the building manager, Tom, said softly. "They told me not to let you up. Said you're not welcome anymore." His words cut deeper than I expected. Tom had known me for 5 years, ever since I helped Peter and Yasmin buy their condo 3 floors below mine. I swallowed hard. Did they say why? Tom looked away, uncomfortable. "They just said there were issues, that they needed space." Space? Issues? I had only been gone for 3 weeks. Before leaving, everything seemed fine. Peter had hugged me goodbye and promised to water my plants. We'd had dinner together the night before I left. As the elevator carried me up to my apartment, my thoughts raced. Had I said something wrong? Had I crossed a line without realizing it? I always tried to respect their space. Then my phone buzzed. Peter's name flashed on the screen. "Peter, what's going on? Tom just gave me—" "Mom, we need some distance," he interrupted. His tone was cold, one I'd never heard from him before. "Yasmin feels suffocated by you. And honestly, so do I." My heart sank. "Peter, I don't understand. I always call before visiting. I've never tried to control anything." "It's everything, Mom," he said after a pause. "You're always checking in, always trying to help. It's too much. We need real space." I pressed my back against the elevator wall. "Peter, I've been gone for 3 weeks. How much space do you need?" "That's exactly it," he said sharply. "You think 3 weeks is a long time. Normal mothers don't check in every day." I wanted to talk face to face to explain, but he stopped me. "Not now, Mom. Maybe in a few months." Months. The word hit like a physical blow. Then, almost without thinking, I said, "Peter, does Yasmin know I've been paying your maintenance fees, that I covered your down payment?" Silence. "What are you talking about?" he asked finally. "I pay our bills." The truth hit me like a wave. He didn't know. For 3 years I'd been quietly helping, transferring money so his payments seemed lighter, calling it automatic deductions. I wanted him to feel proud and independent. The down payment had been disguised as a loan, but I'd put every repayment into an account for their future. "Peter, I was just trying to help," I whispered. "You're lying," he said flatly. "You're doing exactly what Yasmin said you would, trying to manipulate us." "Peter, please, don't call us, Mom. Don't come by. We'll reach out when we're ready." The line went dead. I sank onto the sofa, my body trembling. After everything, the sacrifices, the quiet support, the years of love, all I had left was a cruel note and a colder phone call. Across the room, a framed photo caught my eye. Peter at his college graduation, his arm around me, both of us smiling. I was 42 then, a widow working 2 jobs to see him through school. Now, at 58, I'd never felt so alone. What had Yasmin told him about me, and why was he so ready to believe her? 3 days have passed since that call. 3 days of silence, unanswered messages, and an emptiness that refuses to fade. I moved through my apartment like a ghost, my fingertips brushing over the framed photographs that told the story of our lives. Peter's first day of school, his high school graduation, his wedding to Yasmin. In every picture, I traced his face, wondering, how did we end up here? The silence pressed around me, and memories I'd tried to bury came rushing back. Robert, my husband, had died suddenly when Peter was just 11. Becoming a widow at 34 nearly broke me. But I couldn't fall apart, not when my boy needed me more than ever. I remembered the late nights at our kitchen table, bills scattered across the surface, trying to stretch my teacher's salary to cover the mortgage, insurance, and his school tuition. The weekends spent working extra shifts instead of watching his soccer games. The quiet evenings when I'd sit outside his door, listening to him cry for his father, feeling powerless. But somehow, we survived. I took night classes, earned my MBA, and climbed my way up the corporate ladder, one exhausted step at a time. When Peter earned a scholarship to college, I cried with pride. When he landed his first job at a marketing firm, I framed his business card. And when he met Yasmin 5 years ago, I welcomed her with open arms, desperate for him to find the happiness he deserved. My phone buzzed. A message from Martha, my best friend since college. "How are you holding up? Still coming for dinner tonight?" I'd completely forgotten. The thought of pretending everything was fine felt impossible, but another night alone with my thoughts felt worse. "I'll be there," I replied. That evening, sitting across from Martha at her dining table, I finally let it all pour out. Every word, every tear. She listened in silence, her brow furrowing deeper with each detail. "Evelyn, this doesn't make sense," she said, pouring me another glass of wine. "Peter adores you. He always has." "Apparently not anymore." My voice broke. "You should have heard him, Martha. He sounded like a stranger." Martha reached across the table and took my hand. "This has Yasmin written all over it. I never liked the way she looked at you, even at the wedding." I'd noticed it too, the way Yasmin's smile would tighten whenever Peter and I shared an inside joke, the way she'd interrupt when we reminisced, the subtle remarks about healthy boundaries between mothers and sons. "But why would Peter believe her?" I asked, barely above a whisper. Martha sighed. "Men can be blind when someone slowly turns them against the people who love them. Remember David's wife? It took him years to see what she was doing." Her words stirred something in me, memories of the small things I'd brushed off, like the first anniversary gift I gave them, my grandmother's antique clock. Yasmin's polite smile, her words later that night. "It's just your mother marking her territory." A month later, that clock was mysteriously broken. "I don't understand what I did wrong," I whispered. "You didn't," Martha said firmly. "But Yasmin's been twisting things little by little, turning your kindness into control, your help into interference. It's classic isolation." The realization hit hard. She told him I was controlling, that I was suffocating them. Martha nodded grimly. "And now she's convinced him you're lying about helping them financially." "I never wanted him to know," I admitted. "Robert was proud, independent. Peter inherited that. I was just trying to protect his dignity." "You were protecting him," Martha said gently. "She's the one using your silence against you." That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, imagining Yasmin whispering in Peter's ear, slowly turning my son against me, one conversation at a time. Had this been her plan all along? Was that why she'd encouraged them to move into the same building, just to keep me close enough to control the story? By 3 a.m., I gave up on sleep. I opened my laptop, logged into my bank account, and began scrolling through years of transactions, every monthly transfer disguised as an investment return, every maintenance fee quietly covered, every payment done in secret, out of love, so my son could feel confident, secure, independent. I never wanted recognition. I just wanted him to be happy. Then a new notification appeared, an email from Peter. My heart leapt. Maybe he was reaching out. Maybe he understood. But the message was short, cold. "Mom, please stop calling and texting Yasmin. She's upset and doesn't want to talk to you. I've attached a document from our lawyer. Please respect our boundaries. If this continues, we'll have to take further action. Further action." My hands trembled as I read the words again and again. I hadn't even tried to contact Yasmin since that phone call. Yet here it was, a formal cease and desist letter from my own son. Shock gave way to a wave of pain so sharp I could barely breathe. After everything I'd done, every sacrifice, every sleepless night, every ounce of love, this was what I'd become. A stranger to my own child. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. It was deliberate, a quiet, calculated attack. For the first time since Robert's death, I felt completely alone. My son, the boy I'd raised on my own, the one I'd sacrificed everything for, had become a stranger, using legal threats to push me out of his life. What had Yasmin told him to make him see me this way? And now that she'd succeeded in driving a wedge between us, what would she do next? 2 weeks later, I found myself standing outside their apartment building, my heart pounding like it might break through my chest. I knew I was taking a risk just by being there. But I couldn't let it end like this, not without at least trying to understand. The building manager, Tom, noticed me right away. "Mrs. Reynolds," he said softly, "I'm really not supposed to let you in." "I know, Tom," I replied. "I'm not asking you to, but could you please give this to Peter?" I handed him a small envelope. He hesitated, then nodded. "I'll make sure he gets it." Inside the envelope was a letter. Handwritten, simple, honest. No blame, no pleading. Just an invitation to meet at Café Blue, our favorite spot since Peter was in high school. Neutral ground, a place that used to feel safe. The next day, I arrived an hour early. I chose a quiet corner table away from the door. Every time the bell chimed, my heart jumped. By the time our meeting hour came, my coffee was cold, and the napkin in front of me had been shredded into tiny pieces by nervous fingers. Then, at 1:15, the bell rang again. Peter walked in. His expression was tense, unreadable, but he wasn't alone. Yasmin followed close behind, her hand looped possessively around his arm. My stomach sank. This wasn't the private talk I'd hoped for. "Hello, Peter," I said, standing halfway. "Yasmin." Peter gave a curt nod and sat across from me. Yasmin slid in beside him, her gaze sharp, assessing. "You have 15 minutes, Peter said quietly. 15 minutes. That was all my son was willing to give me. "Thank you for coming," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Peter, I don't understand what's happened between us. Just a few weeks ago everything seemed fine, and now it's like I've become your enemy." Peter looked away, shifting uncomfortably. Yasmin placed her manicured hand over his, her diamond ring catching the light. "You know what you did, Evelyn," she said, using my first name, something she'd started doing after their wedding, always with a hint of disdain. "I honestly don't," I said quietly. "That's why I wanted to talk. To understand." Peter's tone hardened. "Mom, for years you've been overstepping. Dropping by, calling constantly, trying to control everything." Each word landed like a blade. "Peter," I said gently, "I always call before visiting. I never just show up." Yasmin jumped in. "Last month, you did. During dinner with my colleagues." I frowned. "You mean when you invited me to meet your new boss?" "We didn't invite you," Yasmin snapped. "You said you were nearby and insisted on coming up." That wasn't true. Peter had called me that morning. I looked to him for confirmation, for even a flicker of recognition, but he kept his eyes on the table. "Peter," I whispered, "that's not what happened." Yasmin tightened her grip on his hand. "See? She's doing it again, twisting things, gaslighting you." My throat went dry. "I'm not twisting anything," I said, struggling to breathe. "Peter, you invited me that day. You did." "Mom, please," he said, his voice flat. "Don't make this harder." It was like arguing with someone inside a fog. Every truth I spoke slipped through their fingers. "I would never lie to you," I whispered. Peter's head snapped up. "Like you didn't lie about paying our maintenance fees? About hiding the payments behind my back?" My heart dropped. He'd found out. "I wasn't hiding anything," I said quickly. "I was helping. I didn't want you to feel burdened." "Dependent," Yasmin interrupted coldly. "That's the word you're looking for. You wanted him dependent on you forever." "That's not true," I said, my voice breaking. "After your father passed, I promised myself Peter would never face that kind of struggle. I wanted him to feel safe." Peter's expression wavered for the briefest second, a flicker of the boy I once knew. But then Yasmin shifted beside him, and it vanished. "We have news," she said suddenly, her tone smooth, deliberate. "I wasn't going to tell you, but since we're here—" Her hand moved to her stomach. A satisfied smile curved her lips. "I'm pregnant," she said. "You're going to be a grandmother." The world seemed to tilt beneath me. Joy, confusion, heartbreak, they all collided at once. But as I looked at her smile, I realized it wasn't joy she wanted to share. It was victory. The news should have been joyous. A grandchild, the kind of miracle every mother dreams of. But instead it felt like a weapon. A carefully chosen card, played at the perfect time. Still, I forced a smile. "That's wonderful news. Congratulations to you both." Peter looked startled by my calm tone. For a split second, I saw conflict in his eyes, like part of him had expected me to react badly, maybe even wanted me to. "The doctor says I need to avoid stress," Yasmin said smoothly. "That's why we need space from complicated relationships." Her words were deliberate, rehearsed. And in that moment, I understood. This wasn't just an announcement. It was an ultimatum. Stay away, or be painted as the cause of their stress, the villain who might endanger their perfect new beginning. "I understand," I whispered, my heart fracturing inside my chest. I would never want to cause any trouble during such an important time. I reached into my purse and pulled out a small velvet box. "This was meant as a peace offering," I said quietly. "But now, I suppose it can be a congratulations gift." Inside was a silver photo frame, holding Peter's ultrasound picture from when I was pregnant with him. Robert had kept it on his desk every day until he passed. "Your father treasured this," I said, my voice barely holding steady. "He said it reminded him of hope." Peter's fingers brushed the frame. I saw his throat tighten as he swallowed, and for the briefest moment I saw my son again. Not the cold, distant man sitting across from me, but the boy I'd raised. Then Yasmin's voice sliced through the silence. "We should go," she said. "Your 15 minutes are up." The moment shattered like glass. The days that followed were the darkest I'd lived since Robert's death. I stopped answering calls, stopped going to work dinners. Even getting out of bed felt like lifting a mountain. Nights blurred into one another. Endless hours spent staring at photo albums, trying to understand where I'd gone wrong. Through it all, Martha was the only person who wouldn't give up on me. "Evelyn," she said one evening, setting down a plate of lasagna in front of me, "you can't keep isolating yourself. You're giving Yasmin exactly what she wants." "What else can I do?" I asked weakly. "She's pregnant, Martha. She's using that to keep him away from me." Martha hesitated, her expression darkening. "There's something you should know," she said. "I wasn't sure before, but now I am." I looked up sharply. "What do you mean?" "My niece Rebecca used to be in a book club with Yasmin's old college roommate," she said carefully. "And according to her, this isn't the first time Yasmin's done something like this." A chill ran down my spine. "What are you saying?" "She did the same thing with her last serious boyfriend," Martha continued. "She slowly isolated him from his family, especially his mother, twisting stories, planting doubts, until he cut everyone off." Cold realization settled in my stomach like lead. "Why didn't you tell me this before?" "It was just gossip back then," Martha admitted. "I didn't want to stir trouble without proof, but after everything she's done—" She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "I should have warned you." Her words clicked into place like missing puzzle pieces. Every look, every lie, every manipulation suddenly made sense. "I have to talk to Peter," I said quietly. "Alone. He has to see who she really is." "She'll never let that happen," Martha warned. "Then I'll find another way." The next few days I built my plan carefully. Peter had mentioned once, months ago, that he liked working from Café Blue on Wednesdays, while Yasmin went to her prenatal appointments. It was a small window, but it was all I had. That Wednesday at 10 a.m., I walked into the café. My heart thudded so loudly I was sure everyone could hear it. And then I saw him. In the far corner, Laptop open, headphones on. I ordered a coffee and approached slowly, pretending to scan the room. When he finally looked up, surprise flickered across his face, followed by exhaustion. "Mom," he said quietly, removing his headphones, "what are you doing here?" "I come here sometimes," I lied gently, taking the seat across from him before he could object. "Didn't expect to see you." He sighed, glancing at his watch. "Yasmin's appointment ends in an hour." "Then we have time to talk," I said. I opened my bag and pulled out a folder. "Peter, please. Before you say anything, just look at this. If this is about the maintenance fees—" "It's not," I interrupted softly. "It's about truth." Inside were printed bank statements showing the monthly transfers to their account, copies of Yasmin's emails to building management, the ones asking that I be barred from entering, sent 2 days before I even returned from Chicago, and text messages between Peter and me that directly contradicted Yasmin's stories. Peter's brow furrowed as he turned each page. "How did you get these?" "Tom," I said quietly. "He felt awful about what happened. He wanted you to know the truth." Peter kept reading, slower now, his frown deepening. When he reached the messages about that dinner with Yasmin's boss, the ones clearly showing he had invited me, he froze. He read them once, then again. "This doesn't make sense," he murmured. "I know," I said softly. "I know what she told you, and I know you believed her. But Peter, I would never lie to you." He looked up from the papers, and for the first time in months I saw it. Uncertainty. Doubt. A crack in the wall Yasmin had built between us. "Why would she make this up?" I asked softly. "Peter, I think she wants to control your relationships, to isolate you." He frowned, his eyes narrowing. "And where did you even get this idea?" I hesitated. "Martha's niece knows Yasmin's old college roommate. Apparently she's done this before with her ex." Peter's face hardened instantly. "So you've been investigating my wife?" "No, Peter," I said quickly. "I haven't investigated anyone. The information came to me. I'm just trying to understand how everything between us fell apart so suddenly." He looked down, his jaw tight. "I don't hate you," he said quietly. "Then why the letter?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Why did you let her ban me from your home? Why believe every terrible thing she said without even asking for my side?" He said nothing, just stared at the papers spread before him. "You know what hurts the most?" I whispered. "That after everything we've been through, everything I've done for you, you could believe I would ever try to control you." He finally met my eyes. For the first time in weeks, I saw something shift there, a flicker of the boy I once knew. Not the guarded man Yasmin had molded, but my son, the little boy who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms, the teenager who brought me flowers every Mother's Day, the young man who hugged me at his college graduation and whispered, "We did it, Mom." "I don't know what to think anymore," he admitted finally. "These documents, they don't match what Yasmin told me." "No, they don't," I said gently. "Because she hasn't been telling you the truth." His phone buzzed. He glanced down, and I caught the name flashing on the screen. Yasmin. In an instant, the connection between us evaporated. His expression filled with tension. "She's finished her appointment early," he muttered, hurriedly gathering his things. "Peter," I pleaded, "please, just think about what you've seen today." He stuffed the folder into his bag, hesitating. "I can't take this home," he said quietly. "She'll—" He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. "Keep it," I said, "or destroy it if you have to. I have copies." He nodded, avoiding my gaze. "I just need time." "I understand," I said softly, reaching out to touch his arm. "I love you, Peter. Nothing will ever change that." He didn't pull away. That small mercy gave me hope. "I'll call you," he said, before hurrying out the door. I watched him leave, my heart twisting. I'd planted the seeds of doubt, but would they grow? And if Yasmin sensed she was losing control, how far would she go to tighten her grip? 3 days passed, no calls, No messages. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart leapt, only to crash again seconds later. Then, on the fourth morning, just as I was getting ready for work, the doorbell rang. My breath caught. Could it be Peter? I opened the door and froze. Yasmin stood in the hallway, her face tight with fury. "You just couldn't help yourself, could you?" she hissed, pushing past me into the apartment before I could react. I shut the door quietly, bracing myself. "Good morning, Yasmin." "Don't play innocent," she snapped, her voice sharp as glass. "I know you ambushed Peter at the cafe. I know about your little folder of evidence." She made air quotes with her fingers, her words dripping with contempt. "It wasn't an ambush," I said calmly. "And everything in that folder was true." "Pathetic," she spat. "You're a lonely woman who can't let go of her son. It's unhealthy." I took a slow breath. "I think you're projecting, Yasmin. You're describing your own behavior." Her eyes narrowed dangerously. "You think you're clever? Peter told me everything. How you've been secretly paying our bills, trying to keep us dependent on you." "I was helping him, not controlling him," I said firmly. She scoffed. "Helping? You've been smothering him his entire life. He never had a chance to become his own man because you were always hovering, making him feel guilty if he didn't put you first." Her words hit me like a slap. "I worked 2 jobs so he could stay in school after his father died," I said quietly. "I put my own grief on hold so he wouldn't have to carry it alone. Every sacrifice I made was for him, not for me." "Oh, please," she sneered. "And you've been reminding him of those sacrifices ever since, haven't you? Always the selfless mother, always the martyr. Poor Evelyn, the woman who gave up everything. You've been using guilt to control him for years." I shook my head, stunned by the twisted picture she'd painted. "That's not true." "Save it," she snapped. "I know your type. My mother was the same way, always the victim, always the saint. It took me years to escape her manipulation." Her words stopped me cold. For the first time, I saw the truth. This wasn't really about me at all. Yasmin wasn't fighting me. She was fighting her past. "Yasmin," I said gently, "I'm not your mother." Something flickered in her eyes, a flash of vulnerability before the rage returned. "Stay away from us," she hissed. "Stay away from my baby. You've lost, Evelyn." She turned sharply and stormed out, the sound of her heels echoing down the hall. The door clicked shut, leaving me alone in the silence. But deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. "Peter believes me, not you." Yasmin's voice was sharp, triumphant. "Does he?" I asked quietly. "Is that why you're here, to threaten me? Because you're so confident in your control over him?" Her expression hardened. "He's coming to pick me up in 20 minutes. And when he finds out I came here, that you upset me in my condition." She placed a protective hand over her barely showing stomach, her voice softening just enough to sound calculated. "It'll be the final nail in your coffin." A wave of sadness washed over me, not for myself, but for Peter, and for the child who would be born into this web of manipulation and lies. "What do you want from me, Yasmin?" I asked, my voice steady but tired. "To disappear from my husband's life," she said coldly. "That would be a start." I moved toward my desk, opening a drawer. "Would money help?" Her eyes flickered, a flash of interest she tried to hide. "You think you can buy your way back into our lives?" "No," I said softly. "I think I'm finally beginning to see what you really want. It was never about space or feeling suffocated. It was about isolating Peter and controlling everything, including the finances." "You don't know anything about me," she hissed, but her eyes stayed locked on the checkbook in my hand. "I know enough." I wrote out a check for $50,000, a significant sum, but one I could afford. Then I held it out to her. "Take it," I said. "Consider it a parting gift." She hesitated, clearly torn between greed and the need to appear righteous. "What's the catch?" "No catch," I said. "Take the money. Do what you want with it. I won't contact Peter again unless he reaches out to me first." Her hand darted forward, snatching the check before she could second-guess herself. She inspected it carefully, then slipped it into her purse. "Smart decision," she said coolly. "I'll tell Peter you've agreed to respect our boundaries." "I'm sure you'll tell him whatever version suits your story," I said quietly. Yasmin smirked, moving toward the door. Then she turned back, her voice dripping with satisfaction. "It must be killing you," she said. "Knowing I won. Knowing your precious son chose me over you." I stayed silent. I could see how much my calm unnerved her. She wanted me to react, to give her the scene she could twist into more lies. "Goodbye, Yasmin," I said simply, holding the door open. She glared one last time before sweeping out. The door clicked shut. I sank onto the sofa, my entire body trembling with exhaustion. Had I just made a terrible mistake? $50,000 was a lot of money, but it wasn't about that. It was about testing her, about seeing what she'd do when faced with a choice between pride and greed. And she'd chosen greed, instantly. That told me everything I needed to know. I picked up my phone and called Martha. "She took the bait," I said when she answered. "You were right," Martha replied immediately. "She came straight to you the moment Peter started questioning her story, and she took the check, just like we predicted. Did you do what we talked about?" I smiled grimly. "Yes. It's all on video. Everything. Her threats, her taking the money, even her admission that Peter didn't know she came here. The hidden security cameras in my apartment had captured it all." "What now?" Martha asked. "Now we wait," I said, glancing at the framed photo of Peter and me on my coffee table. "If she cashes the check, that's proof of her real motive. Bank records don't lie." I paused, my voice softening. "But even then, it's still up to Peter. I can't force him to see the truth." When I hung up, I felt an unexpected calm. For the first time in months, I'd done everything I could. The rest was in my son's hands. 6 months passed. The seasons shifted. Summer melted into autumn, then winter. The holidays loomed, bringing bittersweet reminders of family gatherings that wouldn't happen this year. I threw myself into work. I took a painting class. I even started volunteering at a local literacy program. Life went on, though the hollow place in my heart where Peter used to be never stopped aching. The check had been cashed just days after Yasmin's visit. I'd forwarded the bank notification to Martha with a sad emoji, but after that, I'd let it go. What was the point? If Peter had chosen to believe her lies, no amount of proof could change his mind. Then, one cold December evening, as I was setting up my Christmas tree, a smaller one than usual, but I couldn't bear to skip the tradition, the doorbell rang. Probably a delivery, I thought, brushing pine needles from my sweater as I went to answer. But when I opened the door, I froze. Peter stood there, hands buried in his coat pockets, shoulders hunched against the chill, his breath fogging in the winter air. "Hi, Mom," he said softly, his voice rough with emotion. My heart stuttered. "Peter?" We stared at each other, the space between us thick with months of silence, pain, and unfinished words. He looked thinner, paler. There were dark circles under his eyes, the unmistakable marks of sleepless nights. "Can I come in?" he asked quietly. I stepped aside without speaking, afraid that if I said a single word, the fragile peace in that moment might shatter. He walked in slowly, taking in the half-decorated tree, the boxes of ornaments on the floor, and the faint sound of holiday music playing in the background. Without a word, Peter walked to the corner of the living room and picked up the silver star topper, the one his father had bought for our very first Christmas together. He turned it over in his hands, his thumb tracing the worn edges. "You kept it," he murmured. "Of course I did," I replied softly. "It's our tradition." Peter set the star down carefully and turned to face me. "I've made a terrible mistake, Mom." The words hung between us, fragile, terrifying, and precious all at once. I swallowed hard. "Would you like some coffee?" I asked quietly, not ready to confront the enormity of what he'd just said. "I just made a fresh pot." He nodded, following me into the kitchen. The same kitchen where we'd shared countless breakfasts, homework sessions, and late-night talks when he was a boy. I poured 2 mugs, added cream to his just the way he liked it, and set one in front of him. "Yasmin and I separated 2 months ago," he said abruptly. "The divorce will be finalized after the baby's born." I sat down across from him, letting the words sink in. "I'm sorry, Peter," I said softly. He looked up, almost searching my face. "After everything she did to you? Are you really sorry?" "I'm sorry you're hurting," I clarified, "and I'm sorry about the baby." He nodded, staring into his coffee. "She's agreed to joint custody. It's a girl." Despite everything, a flicker of joy warmed my chest. "A granddaughter," I whispered. "That's wonderful." Peter took a shaky breath. "I found the check, Mom." I froze. "In her purse," he continued quietly. "I was looking for a receipt and saw her bank statement. $50,000, deposited the same day she told me she was going to make peace with you." I stayed silent, waiting. When I confronted her, she claimed it was a bribe, that you were trying to buy her silence about something, but it didn't add up. He looked up, guilt clouding his eyes. "So I checked the building's security footage. I saw her coming to your apartment that day." He swallowed. "Then I called the bank and found out you really had been paying our maintenance fees all along." I nodded gently, saying nothing. "And there was more," he said hoarsely. "Emails to her friends about how she'd finally gotten the controlling mother-in-law out of the picture." His voice broke. "She convinced me you were the manipulative one, when all along it was her." I finished softly. Peter nodded, tears filling his eyes. "How could I have been so blind? How could I believe her lies about you after everything we've been through?" I reached across the table and took his hand. "She was very convincing, Peter. And you loved her. We tend to believe the people we love." He looked down, ashamed. "I don't deserve your forgiveness." "You have it anyway," I said simply, and that was it. The dam broke. He began to cry, quiet, heart-rending sobs, as months of guilt, confusion, and regret poured out. I moved to his side and held him the way I used to when he was small, when a scraped knee or a broken heart was the worst pain he knew. We stayed like that for a long time, the coffee growing cold, the soft hum of Christmas music filling the silence. Finally he straightened, wiping his eyes. "I've missed you so much, Mom. These past months have been—" He trailed off. "I know," I said gently. "I've missed you too." He hesitated, his voice trembling. "Can we start over? Can we rebuild what we had?" I smiled through my tears. "We never really lost it, Peter. It was just waiting for you to find your way back." Together, we returned to the living room and continued decorating the tree, falling into the easy rhythm we'd always shared during the holidays. When Peter reached up to place the silver star on top, I caught his profile in the light. The same calm focus, the same careful hands that once belonged to his father. Gratitude swelled in my chest, so powerful it hurt. This wasn't the perfect ending I had imagined months ago. Peter was still healing, newly divorced, soon to be a single father. There would be challenges ahead, custody battles, co-parenting tensions, long nights filled with uncertainty, but we would face them, together, just as we always had, with honesty, with love, with the unbreakable bond between mother and son that no lie could destroy forever. 3 months later, I stood in the hospital room, watching as Peter cradled his newborn daughter. Despite everything, Yasmin had allowed me to be there for the birth, a small, unexpected gesture of peace after a long and bitter separation. "Would you like to hold her?" Peter asked softly. I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. He placed the tiny bundle into my arms, and I gazed down at my granddaughter, at her delicate rosebud mouth, her soft dark hair, and the steady rhythm of her breathing. "She's beautiful," I whispered. "We're naming her Rose," Peter said quietly. "Rose Evelyn Holloway." Tears filled my eyes. "You don't have to—" "I want to," he said firmly. "I want her to be named after the strongest, most loving woman I know." From her hospital bed, Yasmin watched us silently. Her expression was complicated, part resignation, part lingering resentment, and maybe, just maybe, a hint of respect. Our relationship would never be close, but for Rose's sake, we had found a fragile truce. As I rocked my granddaughter, I thought of the lessons I'd someday pass on to her, not just how to tie her shoes or bake cookies or balance a checkbook, but the deeper truths that life had taught me. That love doesn't need recognition. That forgiveness is as much a gift to yourself as to others. That family bonds, when real, can bend almost to breaking and still find their way back to strength. And most of all, that sometimes the greatest victory isn't forcing others to acknowledge your truth, but living it quietly, steadfastly, until it shines so clearly that it can no longer be denied. Rose yawned and curled closer, her tiny hand wrapping around my finger with surprising strength. In that perfect moment, with my son beside me and his daughter in my arms, I knew the legacy I would leave behind wasn't money or property or even my name. It was love, steadfast, patient, unshakable, a love that would echo through generations long after I was gone.